Welcome.
Hey, look, the fuck up's back.
God damn it. Well, welcome back. Thank you for having me back, I guess. Since you tried to replace me with two different people while I was away.
Yeah, well, apparently nobody can fill my shoes, so I'm the only constant on this little thing we've got going here.
I don't think that was what I just said. I said my shoes, not you. There's nothing about you.
You're trying to turn a conversation that I just turned to being about me back to being you. That's your problem, is you're not understanding that I'm making the conversation all about me as a superior talent on this podcast.
Narcissists say what?
Tell them what episode number it is and let's get on.
I have no idea what episode number it is.
That's because you're never here anymore. It's episode 10.
I just know it's repressed humor issues, and I'm happy to be back.
So just so you're aware, I was planning to, but I ran out of time with all the time that you've been gone. One of the things that Joe and I talked about while he was here was setting up a survey to see how bad our NPS scores could actually be. And for those that don't know, NPS is Net Promoter Score. I honestly said that it was negative right now, that we were turning people off from podcasts just by existing.
Oh, you mean podcasts generically?
Yes. They would not sign up for Spotify. They would not sign up for Apple Podcasts based off of knowing we were here.
I don't think we've done our job well enough until we turn people off from audiobooks as well. Just because the audio medium that we're providing is so atrocious, they can't stand anything.
You just gave me an idea.
Oh.
Yes, we're ready. We're making an audiobook.
Oh, good God. Something no one asked for ever.
Nobody asked for this, and we're still doing it. So
that's very true. Excuse me.
So, Ryan, tell everybody, how was your vacation?
I could use a few more weeks.
In the Mediterranean playing with the seamen?
I already know you went there. I'm happy to say that I encountered 0 sharks, despite there being 47 species in the Adriatic. But it was fantastic. I highly recommend Croatia for anyone that's never been and has the ability to go. The people are great, and I think they might be one of the smarter countries in the world because they don't trust banks. They don't
you told me about that.
They don't trust creditors, and they trust cash. But they love cats.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
While you were on the boat that you were on, or yacht, or whatever it was, did you ever think to yourself, do I want to jump to go where the sharks are, or do I want to get electrocuted by the battery? Did that go through your head at all while you were on?
0 times.
0 times. Okay. I don't know. There's just I remember hearing something about somebody saying something like that.
I don't know. They're weird.
Yeah. So, speaking of weird, what the fuck's happened to the world in the last 3 weeks that you've been gone?
I don't know. Like I left and whoa. Like I really did do a pretty good job of unplugging, but there were certain moments, and you text me like while I was on the boat. And
what was the moment I texted you about? Because there was 2 of them, but what was the first one?
The first one was the assassination attempt.
It wasn't an assassination attempt. He got hit by a little bit of shrapnel in his ear. He was not shot.
But that's what you text me about.
Yeah, because at that point we hoped that he got shot.
What? No, that should never be a thing. We should not have those. Period. Like,
no, if the shot already happened, there's nothing wrong with me hoping that it went 6 inches to the left. Okay. It's if I'm encouraging people to take that shot that we've gone too far.
Either way, that's what you text me about. And then
what was the second thing I texted you about?
Biden dropping out.
Right.
All in the same week, I think.
I was your news service for these news flashes while you were on vacation.
Yeah, it was
significant events occurred.
It was strange because there was moments while at sea that we had we had Wi-Fi on the boat, but it was satellite Wi-Fi that was spotty at best. But for some reason, I could always receive texts, specifically SMS. Those always came through.
You
Uh,
can never avoid me. That's just what it is. You've
yeah,
stuck with me
I
forever.
tried, and god damn it, the world was like, "Yeah, you're still going to receive his SMS. Nothing else.
Yep.
No, not even your email's going to work, but text from Dan."
Yep.
Oh,
Hold on, yacht. Stop, stop, stop. Dan, send me a text.
yeah. And my dad also calling me, completely forgetting that, like, I'm in Croatia on a boat, and I'm just like, I'm not going to answer this.
Yep. So we had the assassination attempt.
Yeah,
I'll call it an assassination attempt because we don't know that he was trying to shoot anybody else at this point. But we got a bunch to talk to there. We've got the whole Biden Kamala thing.
yeah.
We've got these weird rallies that have been occurring and Zoom calls and stuff. And
Uh,
then what did you talk to me about today that you said you're so glad that we waited one more day?
oh, RFK Jr. like leaving a dead bear and dead baby bear in Central Park 10 years ago, I think.
They actually said the bear was in 2014, and I saw something today that said that his brain worm was in 2010. So somebody was trying to say that the bear caused the brain worm because he tried eating it.
Oh,
I
that was
also,
I know.
I don't know if it was doctored or not, but there was a picture of the dead bear with RFK's hand in the mouth, bloodied, and he was pretending that the bear bit his hand. And I don't know if it's real or not, but some places are starting to report this. So the amount of crazy in the
Oh,
last 3.5 weeks is insane.
well, what was one of the first images that I text you back when I got back
I'm
from my,
trying to remember now.
from my balcony?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
RFK related. How many trucks were near my
Oh,
apartment?
yeah, yeah. And then apparently, this whole video of him talking about this bear, he was telling it to Roseanne. And I have
Roseanne
no,
Barr?
yes, and I have no idea why Roseanne was in the same room with him. But apparently, like, I've seen the looks in her face, and she was like, holy fuck, this guy's crazy.
I mean, oddly enough, so a few days after for context, I sent Dan a photo of like six or seven of those vehicles that drive around that are large screens that flash advertisements, but these were all for Vote RFK Jr. But they were all like centralized in a pack, waiting to disperse, I guess, in a parking lot near my place. And it just looked strange because I could see all the sides of them. But then, like 3 days later, there was a caramel colored 1970s panel van outside of my apartment with like people standing on the street corner with a clipboard. And I'm like, what like thing am I going to get guilted into doing a putting my name on for? I can't remember what that's called. God damn my brain. Um, but this is the talent that RFK was able to hire, was three like teenagers or 21, we'll call them, dressed in sweatpants, a really tattered tank top, white tank top, with a red bandana, saying, "Hey, you want to vote for RFK? Fill this out."
They're
And
trying to get him on the ballot, is what they're trying to do.
yes, but that communication was so rough. The one of the three was able to articulate that they were trying to get him on the ballot. The other two were saying, "You got to vote for RFK Jr." That was it.
Which, which is not if he's not on the ballot, you can't vote for him. You can only write him in.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
So he's not
well,
even on the ballot here.
Elon's in trouble for stuff like that too, because I don't know if you saw, but in North Carolina and Michigan, they've opened up investigations because he's co-sponsoring a PAC, the Political Action Committee, that they are trying to say that they're registering people to vote when all they're doing is they're gathering the information
Wait,
of these people
I
that
thought
signed
he
up.
wasn't doing the pack. I thought that ended up being a farce.
This is that was the 45 million he was going to invest with Donald Trump.
Okay.
This is something else. And there's investigations because what they were doing was they were saying, okay, well, come here to register to vote. And all it was information harvesting. You could not register to vote there. They had no ability to be able to do it. But they did that to get people to register there instead of actually going to register to vote so that they could screw up the elections. And Elon's
Oh.
apparently in trouble with the FEC on that.
And
But I do have to say, of all the good things, at least it wasn't JD Vance that found that dead bear because unfortunately we know what would have happened. JD Vance would
yeah,
have
yeah.
fucked the bear.
Let's just like walk this back for a second, because like I come back to what I came back to, but then like the weird, and I know weird has been the theme that the Democrats have been using to really oddly upend the Republican Party. I don't know how that's working, but it is. But the weird for JD Vance is coming out like with the couch fucking and then the dolphin thing. Like he's a
Uh,
strange bird, I believe, at this point.
so he's changed his name a couple of times. Once was when he was adopted. Once was after he decided that he didn't want to be gay anymore and stopped going on dates with gay people. So apparently
Wait,
he's
what?
had gay thoughts in his past. Yes, there are people that are coming out now that said that they had dates with JD Vance.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean,
Okay.
but okay, what's wrong with him and Matt Gaetz and their excessive use of like makeup and Botox and filler or whatever
Oh,
the fuck's going on with their faces?
yeah, we all of a sudden have Beavis and Butthead, the political edition. I mean,
Like,
the amount of plastic surgery that was done to Matt Gaetz was ridiculous. But I want to stick on this JD Vance thing for a little bit. We talked about this before we started. We're not going to harp too much on a single political party. We're
no.
going to talk about the weirdness that pervades. But I mean, he's going to be the first VP that is banned both from Ashley Furniture and from SeaWorld. I mean,
So we better call up Bassett Furniture and make sure they're aware.
yes. I mean, IKEA must have just like a thing on their door saying nobody from Vance's. And Usha, his wife, must just be sitting there thinking,
Okay,
I did not sign up to be part of
so what's her background again? I can't remember.
it. She's Indian.
India. Okay, so how is JD Vance on the Republican ticket if one of the Project 2025 things is to ban interracial marriage?
This is where um, everything that's going on with Project 2025 is just such a shit show right now that Trump actually says, no, Project 2025 isn't my agenda anymore. And the guy that was the
He just
director
stepped
for
down, right?
he stepped down. Now, it wasn't anybody from the upper echelon of the Heritage Foundation that stepped down. It was just some functionary that was the director over Project 2025. But that has become so toxic to the Republicans. They're walking that back significantly.
I have to ask a weird question. Not weird, but I feel like I should know this answer, but I don't. Does a director of said foundation or whatever the hell it was actually get paid?
Yes.
What was he
Yeah,
doing?
that's all one giant grift mill. That's all that whole
My God.
Heritage 2025 thing is.
Like, I think we're doing the wrong kind of work.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, if you run for president, I will not fuck a coach for you.
But a dolphin.
Oh, I mean, you were the one that sat there in shark infested waters for a week and a half. You've been closer to dolphins than I have lately. I think the trust issues that we have are reflecting back on you. Every single accusation is an admission, is what's
We
going on.
did see dolphins twice on the trip.
Yep.
Pod of them. I think
Yep.
they're, are they pods? Yeah, I think they're pods.
Yeah.
Or is that a pod of whales? Oh, now I don't even know.
Oh, I think orcas are in.
A pod.
pods, aren't they?
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
hmm, it's not a school of
So
anyway.
we're derailed.
Totally by
But
fucking
my
dolphins.
favorite. Go ahead.
I said by dolphins.
Oh yeah, that's all right. I guess we're a little rusty here because it's been a little bit, and so but we've got a lot to talk about. So we're 15 minutes in already, and we haven't even started on some of the craziness. And I think that let's stay out of the assassination attempt right now and stay at a higher level. There is a level of dysfunction that is becoming apparent in the entire United States electoral system that is almost systematic at this point, is the only way that you can put it. Because in the days leading up to Biden's announcement that he wasn't going to run, there was a fracture in the Democratic Party over he can't because he's already got the nomination, or he can because it's his choice, or he can because he hasn't been fully nominated yet. He just has the votes and he can assign his votes and all that sort of stuff. And there were people actively telling him to step down. Well, people on the other side of the spectrum that wanted him to stay were attacking the people telling him that he should go.
So there's in-party fighting, basically.
There was in-party fighting. At the same time that you have the J.D. Vance nomination, which has caused infighting over on the right because J.D. Vance is just such a fucking weirdo. Okay. Now, realistically, I can't remember a time in my life that, well, maybe the Dan Quayle nomination for
Even
VP.
then, that was still stable.
This is utter craziness what we're seeing right now. And here's why I want to talk about this specifically. Was this spectacle? Was this planned?
I think on some level, I don't think that the Re- the Republican side was intentionally a spectacle. I actually think they went forward with intention to use this platform, and this is going to be it. I do think it's a little bit of showmanship and setup on the Democrat side. Um,
It is interesting that Biden decided he was going to not run immediately after the RNC convention, which the Grinder app actually was failing
yeah,
in Milwaukee based off of the number of people that were
I love
using
that.
Grinder.
I love that.
But
I mean, but I think the Democrats truthfully needed anything spotlight wise aside from Joe Biden dementia talk. They needed some sort of positive movement, even if that was in party infighting, because that was still publicity, which is a positive at that point for the Dems.
But what if, and here's what I'm postulating here,
Mm,
the Democrats set this up all along? Because 4 years ago, I was driving back from Milwaukee with a coworker. It's probably closer to 5 now. I was walking back from driving back from Milwaukee, doing some work with a coworker, and we had the discussion about Kamala wasn't ready. Joe should come in, do his 4 years, and then cede to her for the next election so the next generation could come in. And them waiting until after the RNC convention allowed for the statements of Joe's too old, Joe's not senile, Joe's senile, Joe's not competent, to now be mirrored back against Trump because he's the old, senile, tired man
oh yeah,
running for
they've
president.
the Republicans have had to entirely drop that narrative. They can't touch
And
it now.
and the funny part is it was a narrative before because Trump was falling asleep at his trial
Yeah.
and they were trying to turn it into something, but Joe was older. Then you have the debate happen, and I honestly think the debate is the turning point when everybody in the Democratic Party said, the
That was
Democrats said,
it was too much. It was too much. Like
but what they said was, we need to pivot, but let's see what they do at the RNC convention first. Then we're going to pivot and set the Republicans up for too old, too old, too old, senile, not competent.
so here, I'm gonna walk you through Anthony Scaramucci's prediction. Did you hear this?
No, I heard Scaramucci say that he thought that JD Vance was going to last fewer days than him, but that's all I heard.
Yeah, no, he it was about Trump today because this was a discussion after Kamala took over. Um, so he was saying, Trump cares about a few things, three things really. It's himself, power and money, which he conflated as one, and getting out of jail or keeping out of jail.
Yes. Yep.
So he conceded that if he worked to something out with Biden to take a plea deal where he'll step down and not run in exchange for getting his record expunged and then leaving the door open for Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis to be the Republican ticket.
Uh, that would be interesting. I'm
Uh,
not sure that Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis like each other enough to be able to do that, though.
no, and I don't know either. But I mean, when I in my immediate reaction was like, "That's stupid." But then I sat back and thought about it, and I was like, "Well, that might be the smartest thing the Republicans could do at this point."
But they're not going to get Trump to, because then he would cede the election that he has to win for his own ego.
Unless
I think
he
getting him to sign it would be the hard part.
unless he knows the judgment that's going to be rendered on him is actual jail time.
Well, and that's the fun part is just today, over the last couple of days, the Supreme Court has reinforced the gag order. They're now starting to rerun the documents case that's picking back up. They're the election interference case.
That
They've
starts
got
next week, right?
16th. Yeah, that starts the 16th. I believe that's a Monday. It might be a week and a half.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Um,
Yeah.
but and Missouri had a long shot bid in the Supreme Court to get them to remove to end that case, and that was dismissed today. Everything is coming up bad for Trump.
All over again.
Everything is coming up
Because
bad for
it
Trump.
went bad and then it went way down, and now it's
Yep.
back up again.
Yep. And the only thing that really in any way helps Trump right now is what happened on the stock markets today. With the stock market, last I saw was down. The Dow Jones was down 960 points. I don't know where it finished.
Yeah, it was close to that.
Yeah, but at the same time, Trump's social media stock, Truth Social's the digital acquisition company, it lost another 7% today. It lost more than it fell significantly as well. And crypto crashed. Bitcoin was down 10%
It depends on
at one point.
which one, because I own some crypto. So when the market tanked, I had 6 different crypto coins just skyrocket, and I was like, "Okay, now's the time
Those
to
must
sell
be
those."
the those must be the newer minted tokens or something like that, because all the big ones, Eurythum or whatever it is,
Ethereum.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, they all were down double digits today. Like,
Yeah, I mean, those all hurt for sure, but I guess it wasn't even altcoins, it was just kind of the tier 2 coins are the ones that performed well,
yeah.
for me today. But yeah, because my Bitcoin's way down, just looking at that compared to
But how much chaos are we incurring in all these aspects? Because we have the riots in Britain, we have the riots in Bangladesh. There was a migrant center that was burnt down in Amsterdam. We're starting to see things spin out of control. And is this all just because of what's going on in the US political system? Or is there more to this?
Oh, I think there's more to it because I mean, think about like the war that's about to start in Lebanon.
Yeah, we've got that too, which I read just as I was coming in, some news flash about how there were several U.S. Citizens hurt in an attack on an Israeli base that has U.S. Soldiers on it.
Oh,
It may have already started. Yeah, here it is. Reuters is saying U.S. personnel wounded in attack against base in Iraq. Sorry, not in Israel,
interesting.
but it was launched from Iran.
That's I mean, that whole area is a hotbed all over again.
Yeah, like World War III was highlighted on, was trending on Twitter for most of the day, where normally you'll see things that'll flood in and out. That did not happen. So we've got chaos going on right now. There's no doubt there's a significant amount of chaos.
Well, and you saw that Ukraine sunk a Russian submarine in Crimea, like one of their prized attack subs. Um,
I did not see that. That's the thing. There's so much going on right now. It's impossible to keep track of all of it.
yeah, it really is. It's kind of overwhelming anywhere you go. Like it's hard to. Let's not gloss over the fact that Trump claimed Kamala turned black. Also,
Yes, and that's funny because Byron Donaldson came out today and said, "Well, she's not black; she's Jamaican." Well, Byron Donaldson is Jamaican, and he says that he's black. So the Republican Party can't even get that straight. Their statements on whether she's black or not, and that whole thing that Trump brought up at the National Association of Black Journalists is just such a shit show.
I
I
mean,
mean,
he might. I don't know if he lost the entire black vote there, but he didn't do himself any favors.
no, no, and everybody expected that Kamala was going to come in and it was going to be the same. But they're holding these Zoom calls on a daily basis with different groups, and they're getting tens and hundreds of thousands of people on these Zoom calls to the point that multiple times they've crashed Zoom doing these calls. They've got Mark Hamill and Jeff Bridges and Sean Astin and all of these guys coming out on these calls and making stands specifically to state this is democracy at stake. And we're not here today to state whether we believe that or not. We're here to talk about this craziness that's going on from everything is upended because Sleepy Joe, as he was called, was not doing Zoom calls with tens to hundreds of thousands of people on it. And Trump never would have went to the NABJ interview if Biden was still running for president at that point because there would have been no reason for him to because he was winning. That was a desperation move. The tables have turned significantly, not necessarily Democrat or Republican. That's still to be seen in the next real set of polls that come up. But just in terms of the chaos that this has interjected into the system, it is now impossible to be able to guess what's going to happen next. Because who had Robert Kennedy Jr. admitting to trying to bury a bear cub he found dead on the road under a bike in 2014 in Central Park?
I mean, if that was on a Vegas line, I I'd never. I would love to have won the odds on that. Oh my god.
I mean, this is now there's some belief that in JD Vance's book he didn't actually state that he fucked the couch, and I say he didn't fuck the couch. He fucked the glove. The couch was just the stabilization mechanism.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, so he's not really a couch fucker. He's a glove-asexual. Okay,
how long have you been holding on to that one?
I just made that up on the fly. Literally, you should have seen the wheels turning. Because I've heard him referred to as a sofa sexual, so I just went glove sexual just to go along with that.
Sofa sexual. Oh my god. Internet's
Yes,
amazing. Uh
but I mean, I saw a glove that was just on the ground outside of a retailer the other day, and I thought, oh well, JD Vance is leaving his condoms all over the place. Yes,
I mean, I will say, like, you asked the question earlier, like, really, when has this been, like, politically speaking, in our lifetimes, this wild? I mean, it truly feels like the wild, wild west out here.
Howard Dean lost the nomination by yelling once.
Oh, the ha!
Yeah. He just yelled in a little bit of a weird way and lost the nomination. We
Uh,
have a presidential candidate that is a felon at this point until some other agency intervenes, either to pardon him or to reverse the conviction. We have a guy looking up dolphin porn on Twitter. We have somebody that, instead of traditional rallies, is crashing Zoom on a regular basis. And we have a third party candidate that says that his brain was eaten by a worm.
I have, I don't know if it's late breaking news, but I'll just read it off. RFK Jr. may have faced a $250 fine for dumping the dead bear cub in Central Park, but statute of limitations has expired, New York officials say.
Well, he also should have gotten a littering ticket for the bike.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
So,
so, and, excuse me. The other crazy thing to me is okay. So Harris has all the votes she needs to secure the nomination. Is what they came out with, I think, yesterday.
yes.
She still hasn't picked a running mate, and this is going to be the most controversial thing I say. Maybe not ever,
Maybe.
but in
Maybe.
in this moment, I think to win, if she really is going to win, she needs a straight white male with simple religious background.
So that's where it's interesting because apparently she's narrowed it down now to Josh Shapiro, who is straight white male.
But
The problem
Jewish.
is he's Jewish,
Yeah.
and Tim Waltz, who is straight white Christian but has a DUI in his background, where apparently he claimed he was deaf to try to get out of the ticket.
I think that
Now
makes
this is
them more
going back into
relatable.
the this goes back into the 80s,
I
but he's still the single. He's still the white cis male, and that's what they're looking for on the ticket is somebody to stabilize
well,
the white vote.
you saw the UAW president came out and said Andy Bashir from Kentucky would be a slam dunk. And to have UAW means you have a lot of union support.
But they already have the union support. The unions came out late last week and said that they fully endorse Kamala.
Well,
So I don't think that's as big of a deal. I think what they have to do is they have to erode support from the Republican base, not the MAGA. The MAGA are going to vote Trump no matter what you do.
yep.
It's those people that would say, "But she's a woman." Okay, well, but she's not white. Those people, then you temper that with a Waltz or a Shapiro. Brashear, yeah, probably, but I mean, are you really going to take a governor from a red
Kentucky.
state? Sorry, what?
Kentucky, yeah. I mean, I think like the argument is that Minnesota is, even though it's considered a battleground state, it's still a Democratic leaning battleground state.
It's not even a battleground state at this point. The last polling has Kamala up by 10.
But then you look at like Pennsylvania, which is truly a battleground state.
Yeah,
But Josh Shapiro would be so polarizing unfortunately, for enough voters.
yeah. And I think the other part about that is, again, you're taking a Democratic governor out of a not safe Democratic state.
Yeah.
They definitely don't want to do that.
But they also don't want to take a sitting congressman or woman out of their role either.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting where we are right now because Harris not having said who her running mate is going to be, and Trump waited until the RNC convention to announce JD Vance, and I'm sure Matt Gaetz was crying in a 16-year-old when he found that out. She's not doing anything that Trump didn't do by
No,
waiting
it's
for the
just
convention.
it's the I know what they're getting at though. The time difference is still that much more because the DNC is, a month later than the RNC.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure there was something strategic. I don't know who announced first. I know there's some concern in certain places where they believe that the DNC convention is later than when they're supposed to have the vice president certified onto the ballot. And technically, since she's only the nominee at this point, there's something about that it won't hold water. They can do whatever they want, and
Yeah.
they will be on the ballot. But there's a timing to this that the gap between the RNC and the DNC conventions leaned heavily towards the Democrats gaining an advantage out of this.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just looking at I'll tell everybody I'm on 270towin.com right now. And right now the average of all polls, they have Harris in the lead in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in New Hampshire, in Minnesota. You're talking a few of those battleground states, and Trump's lead is negligible in a lot of these other states. He's like 0.3% up in Pennsylvania.
But do they still have
Um,
him winning overall right now?
they actually have it as a toss up right now, believe it or not.
Oh. Oh, that's changed even since what, Sunday, I think. Or
Yeah.
yeah, no, I looked at it Saturday. So that's
Yeah.
changed.
But you look at a lot of these battleground states, and they're way more up for grabs than they ever were. And this is why, again, you have to wonder if this was planned as opposed to it's just convenience that Biden decided that he wasn't going to run. If they decided 4 years ago that they were going to do everything that they could to make sure that they were hitting the ground at the most opportune time to make this announcement, it makes perfect sense with everything that we've seen.
It's a fast. I mean, this is truly fascinating times. I'm not gonna lie though. For me, it's scary. At the same time because there's so much on the line here. There's so
Oh, yeah.
much.
Yeah. And I'm not going to talk about my personal beliefs on what's at stake here. I think we just have to be aware that the old adage of, you every vote counts. It is so much more important today
Yeah,
that, again, we are going to see people trying to take advantage of that. We know Putin's going to try to take advantage of that. We've seen Elon doing some stuff with that. We know Trump's going to do stuff with that.
Venezuela is going to lean in on that stuff. China's going to lean in on that stuff.
And to be honest with you, the Democrats have to be doing some of it as well.
Sure.
The Democrats are just better at hiding it because that is the game. And to your point, I'm looking at the electoral map based off of polls. And right now they have Trump at 219, Harris at 208 with 111 toss ups,
Wow,
electoral votes.
that's wild.
Yeah.
That's
We're
so
at a
many
point
toss-ups.
where Trump was just slightly over 300 3 weeks ago, and Biden was just not polling well whatsoever. This is a near total flip. We can't call it a total flip because the toss up technically doesn't allow for that, but it's still interesting. And no matter what happens, this RFK thing that's going on, where he's polling at 4%, has a major impact
Big time.
on
Yes,
what's going to happen go forward.
he could. I mean, he could actually sway. Both Democrats and Republicans need him gone
Yes.
equally.
Yeah, because he is not a one way or the other. He is entirely a wild card for both parties because there's no way to tell who's actually going to show up for him at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, just
That's
imagine if he pulls 3% from one side or the other, that's the election.
Yeah. And then you look at what's happening with Peter Thiel, and he hired Nate Silver to run on, I forget the name of the website, but it's a betting site for political pieces like this. Um, and they're attempting to stack the deck now because a closer race means more money is likely to go towards the middle, which means it's highly likely that they will make money off of the betting organization. That's what Peter Thiel wants.
He's just trying to line his pockets. It's
Yeah,
opportunistic at best. That's it.
yeah. And the amount of grift that is coming out of this is ridiculous. Everybody who listens regularly knows I'm a huge Twitter troll. And the number of ads for Trump merchandise that are end the wokeness and that sort of stuff have just increased in the last 3 weeks.
But sorry, I think the rally was 2 days ago or something like that, where for whatever reason it was a Republican thing. They gave people "You're fired" signs.
Yes. Yes. And they were all standing behind JD Vance waving the signs.
But did you see that one black guy that was randomly holding up "You're fired" whenever JD Vance would start talking and then hold it back down? It was amazing.
I missed that, but I did. So here's things that people don't realize that when you watch Trump rallies, things happen in the background that you have to be careful of. There's stuff like that, but they also had two people, they were black behind Trump that weren't looking that enthusiastic. And then there was another guy that was kind of making a weird quizzical face every single time Trump said something at a different rally. And if you watch the rally end to end, you'll see somebody come over, tell those people leave with that person, and they bring somebody else in. And there is no argument because those people are being paid to be there.
Yes, yes. They're just
Now,
and they're swaps. That's all they're doing is swapping them up for somebody that's more straight faced or willing to accept it.
or white, depending on what they need at that particular moment. But this is where I say, how many people that were at the Atlanta rally that Kamala ran, I believe it was Thursday or Friday,
Friday, I
were
think. Yeah,
paid to be there? We don't know.
no
We won't
idea.
know
But
because
if they paid
Citizens
them,
United allowed so much money into the system that they can afford to do that when you get $360 million in a week and a half.
yeah, that was great. But I mean, that was a packed rally.
Oh, it was. And if you watch, a large percentage of the population represented the population of Georgia there as well.
Is Georgia now considered up for grabs? Because there was a while that it was solid red.
Nobody can tell really what's going to happen with Georgia. The latest things that I saw still showed them going red, but it depends on what's going to happen down ticket as well,
Yeah,
because the down ticket has driven the up ticket for the last couple of elections, whereas normally it's the up ticket driving the down ticket. And Trump is known for having horrible coordination in what he's done with the RNC. Now, the RNC is better this time than it was 2020 for their organization, but he still sapped all of their money up towards top billing of the ticket. And there aren't as many people that know those down ticket races as what you would expect, because people who vote blue all the way along are going to vote blue because they know the names.
right.
People that vote red are going to vote the red because they know the color. But that bleeds out when you start getting to the point that everybody's only voting for Trump and they get to the ballot box and they don't know what to do for the other ones because they have no idea of their positioning statements. And as much as people will vote stupidly for Trump, I'm saying that outright as my opinion, they'll vote stupidly against for Trump against their own self-interest. They will not do that down ballot.
Oh, just because they don't know.
Now, Now there's a side to the left and a side to the right, a portion of both that will vote blue or red no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to vote the same way. It's those people in the middle that are looking at this chaos right now and thinking, I can't tell who to vote for because both of these parties are playing games now. And the availability of information has made it such that we all see the games in real time.
Wait,
Used to be those games were hidden in the background and people did them in the shadows, and that's not true anymore.
but the one thing I will say, and this is coming off, so take this with a grain of salt, but I think it has some validity. My TikTok feed has become bizarre. It's either really one of three things. It's dog videos trying to get rocks underwater and blowing bubbles, uh, Korean beauty reviews. Don't ask me why, and center Republicans that are voting Democrat because they're tired generically. That's it. But it's not like one or two. I've had like 15 to 20 different interviews with Senate Republicans from multiple different states where they're just tired and they're ready for any semblance of normalcy.
Right. And see, that's where you haven't been. I've been sending you a lot of videos. I'm
Yeah.
surprised I'm not interfering with your algorithm because
Yeah.
I don't send you political videos.
No.
So, but I'm on mechanics talk, cat talk, and people hurting themselves in egregious ways talk right now on TikTok.
Uh,
That's the basis of what I
that's
get.
my
I don't
Instagram. It's
get the
the
political.
egregious people getting hurt and stupid children getting hurt. I think is what or funny. I don't know. Kids getting hurt was one of the things that popped up, and it's just
Yeah.
like kids getting smacked by like a pan or a rake or whatever. Oh, and then
So
throwing cheese on babies' heads. I get a lot of cheese on babies' heads.
I used to get those. I don't get those anymore.
It's
I
fantastic.
don't. I don't fully understand it. So I do have to let you know that, and I let Cole know this. Um, we finally broke into Urban Dictionary.
What?
Yes, we're on Urban Dictionary now. There are two
Throat
things
sweat?
that I've gotten in. No, throat sweat still does not show up for some reason,
Come on.
but Bridgerton warfare does. Now, Bridgerton warfare is when your spouse makes you watch Bridgerton even though you're not paying attention because it's a form of warfare to get back at you for something that you've done.
Okay.
And then we had Cole came up with sopping buns, which is when you go to the bathroom and the splash goes onto your buttocks and then you suck it
Oh.
in
Oh. What?
between your crack.
What?
Yes, those two are both on there. So when we're talking about what's going on with social media, I admit I'm a troll on Twitter. I'm saying some of the most horrendous stuff on Twitter. I'm not going to go into it because I actually got a 12-hour ban over the weekend for some of the antics that I put on.
I
And
know you're
I had
proud
to
of
reel
that.
it back a little bit. I'm kind of proud, but I was kind of disappointed because so much is happening. 12 hours is a long time to not be able to post or reply.
I think that, but like back to like the center Republicans, I feel what they're saying because I'm ready for nothing to happen.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really
It would
am.
be nice. It would be nice if this election just happened
Yeah.
and then we moved on.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I would be happy to give up my Twitter account and never post on Twitter again, knowing this election was over and everything just happened the way that it was supposed to happen. There was no threats of lawsuits. There was no riots in the streets.
Look,
I'm just not sure that's not going to happen.
I think it's an easy, simple solution. You take away the ability to run campaign ads in all forms. You take away any ability to post any signage anywhere. The only thing they can do is press conferences and debates. And they can't take money from lobbyists. And there's also term limits for every element of the government.
So the problem with that is you just said 6 or 7 things that violate free speech.
Yeah. Well, I'm not violating any free speech. I'm just telling you, you
But
can't.
if you tell people that they can't put a sign on their yard supporting somebody, that's violating their free speech rights. That's been
Oh,
said by
sorry.
the Supreme Court
On
over and over and over again.
public space.
But again, free speech says that if it's a public space, I'm allowed to say what I want in that public space. That's First Amendment rights. Now, within reason, I can't say there's a fire and make
Is
people trample and that sort of
is
stuff.
but is a sign technically saying something, or should they have to physically be there to say something? That's where I think they could argue.
I still think the bigger problem is that as long as we have the mentality of Citizen United, and for those of you who don't know, Citizen United was the ruling that said that organizations can back as much as they want from a campaign perspective, as long as it's going to a political action committee, not to the person themselves. Um, the there's limits on individual people on what they can donate, but there's no limit on corporations. until we reverse that methodology, the amount of money that can be made in a political campaign activity, the amount of grift, the amount of fraud, just the amount of outright paying, double dealing. Trump did this wonderfully in 2016. He rented out areas in in the Trump Tower to himself for his campaign and paid himself big money out of the donations that came out of it.
Yep.
He's using the donations to fight his legal battles.
Yep.
I mean, as long as money rules it, there's a problem. The other thing that really upsets me, and I'm going to go on a soapbox here because I realize this is still First Amendment, but the number of people that think that the number of followers that you have on a social media account dictates your popularity, when we know that the majority of the
They're bots.
accounts are bots, they're grifters, they have some personal stake in being part of that. Our society has corrupted the entire system through that, because for one half of it, it's all about how do I grift, how do I make money. For the other half, it's how do I gain influence, how do I gain followers.
Hmm.
And you'll hear Kamala Harris's account on TikTok got so many followers within X amount of time, and at the same time, they outraised the Trump campaign by $250 million in July. That's wrong to me. That's the wrong statement to be making in terms of where we should be from a society at this point. We should be saying somebody has the right viewpoint to get us through the
Yeah.
next 20 years.
Yeah.
Somebody has the right ideas to be able to fix our borders and fix our healthcare systems and fix our
Yeah.
infrastructure and
This
fix our
person actually has
education.
a solution for our economy that makes sense for all of us.
And right now, what we're doing is we're rating people based off of how much money they can raise.
Well, let me ask you a
And
question. If you think about everything that's transpired just in the past 2 weeks, just take a 2 week period, think about just that. Has anything that's transpired told you about their stance on any one political topic?
there is no platforms anymore. You used to rate people based off their platforms, and nobody's talking platforms anymore. They talk vague ideas. We will protect Obamacare. We will protect Social Security and Medicare. We will, fix government. We'll get drain the swamp. There's no actions behind that they can actually do. The closest to that, unfortunately, is Project 2025, which is a horrendous step towards Nazi type socialism. But
Yeah.
the extreme side of that aside, there is no platform anymore. They say things like, I'm pro abortion or I'm anti abortion. Okay, well, if you're pro abortion, what abortion rights do you believe in? And if you're anti abortion, what abortion rights do you think should be repealed?
Yeah.
And that's not what's being talked about. And Trump does a great job of this because he said abortion rights, let the states figure it out, knowing 50% of the states were going to do what they've already done, but at least he didn't have to be the headliner over the decision.
Yep.
And everybody seems to have forgotten that he spent billions trying to build a wall that is already gone. It's already been hacked through, sawed through, walked around,
Uh,
uh,
and
rusted.
I mean, the thing that amazes me is like, they do and I know they're satire, but they do those interviews at Trump rallies all the time, and
Yeah,
they have the gotcha questions that those people just look moronic trying to answer. But the ones I do like are where they bring actual statistics and they ask them, what do you think Biden should be doing? Oh, he should be finishing the wall. Well, you know that under him, violent crime has dropped the most it's dropped in the past 15 years. And that's all you hear is
yeah.
silence.
The same as when you ask them, do you really believe that babies can be aborted after they're
Oh
born?
my God, I just watched that guy. It was like an older gentleman in California, or talking about California allows it or something like that.
Yeah, basically saying there's state-sponsored murder at this point, uh,
Up to 3 weeks after the birth.
and honestly, we know the Republicans want to keep the kids alive long enough for them to get into school so they can be shot there. We already know that.
E-
Yeah, I know. But I mean, we have to look at there has to be a balance. We have to come to the middle because we've gone so far towards extremes that there's no solutions anymore. There's just yelling.
Yeah.
And if anything, this weirdness is, I'm hoping, the end of the line for the yelling. Because, like you said, people are getting tired.
I
And
mean,
now we're
I'm
hitting points where we need solutions to our problems, not to be angry at other people.
well, and like love him or hate him, I don't really care, honestly. You can listen to Bernie Sanders, and at least he's talking about solutions. Whether you like him or not, at least they're actual, concrete, thought through solutions. We need more of that from both sides so that
Yeah.
they can actually come together and go, okay, you like that, I like that. Let's try to make this make sense together.
And part of that has to be we have to get rid of the ideologue. We have to get rid of the cult because people talk about MAGA being a cult all the time, but there's a cult on the left as
Yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay. And this is why I realize we've said a couple of things that are partisan, but we do need to get back to the point where everybody just unifies towards a common goal. And that common goal has to stretch beyond US borders because we might as well admit it. We've spent probably 70 or 80 years fucking around in other people's sandboxes as well. Okay. And we just need to realize that we can't antagonize somebody and then get mad at them for reacting to the antagonization. We're the bully at that point.
Yeah.
And we have to start understanding that in a good global framework, we're there to help, not to pick sides. And we've picked sides in this country for way too long. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying become best friends with China. We can have a healthy discourse with China while still maintaining some form of peace.
Yes.
But as long as we keep pushing people towards the extremes, the world keeps pushing people towards the extremes because they see us as the democratic example. And we are not doing a good job of being a good global citizen in the democracies of the world
No,
today.
we're not the role model to follow right now.
And
Period.
we we can't get to where we need to be to gain that back until we stop fighting with each other. And I said it. I'm a Twitter troll. Okay, I'm fighting with people on a daily basis. I told a guy that he couldn't come and talk to me till after he was done fucking his sister the other day. Okay, that got me on a 12-hour ban. I wasn't going to go there, but that's what I said. You know, um, and we have to stop fighting with each other. But we're now ingrained to be antagonistic because what has TV taught us over the last 20 years?
Oh, it's taught us to react the opposite of what
It,
anyone says.
well, not only that, it's taught us that people yelling, people being angry, people getting hurt makes it onto TV. People being pleasant with each other doesn't make it onto TV. How many shows do you see that are just good shows of people just being natural people with each other? They have to go to an extreme because extremes sell. The old it bleeds, it leads news mentality. That's pervaded all of our culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to say, but even like think about shows from not too long ago. Friends, The Office, those kind of shows, Seinfeld. They almost don't work into right now's climate.
Yeah. And it's funny because knowing I'm the office freak that I am, there are things that are so racially insensitive in the office that they would never fly today. But that's not why the office can't come back. The office can't come back because they couldn't do that show because they would have to take it to a farther extreme.
Yeah, it's too. It would
And
be considered too tame and boring.
but yet, my wife and I have been rewatching Dexter for the last probably about 2 weeks. It's a show filled with violence,
Yeah,
a lot of violence. Game of Thrones. Even the housewives shows, Sister Wives, all of these shows that we watch now work off of antagonism, not on common belief systems.
And I've been a little bit, maybe it was the vacation and time away that was a little cleansing on some level. But we've been watching the Olympics, and that's all we've been watching. Truthfully, like we haven't even turned on our normal programming. We've just been glued to that. And
But now you can't watch the Olympics or any of the coverage with the Olympics without finding out about the French boner man that can't pole vault because he didn't strap properly.
I have no complaints.
I didn't even think about that when I brought that up. I was just thinking, somebody on TikTok said, put the other pole away. And I mean,
There was a porn site that offered him $250,000 to like do a small sex, like solo sex scene, and it's just
I
like,
mean,
yeah, dude, cash in, go take that 250,000.
but he's getting all of this publicity because he's an extreme, not because he did something great, but because he did something
Oh no,
weird.
no, because his dick prevented him from winning the gold medal in is it pole? Yeah, pole vaulting. That's right.
But it didn't. His knees hit first. He just got hit in the bag
That's
by
not
the
the.
pole by the
It's not
thing
the story.
afterwards.
It's not the story. It's his dick. Okay.
But that's the
Let the
thing.
gays have their story. Okay.
But but again, his dick taking the pole out is sells more than the actual story of his knees hit first. Okay,
No
you
one
can see
cares.
his legs hit. Nobody cares because his dick hit the pole. That's the entire story.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're going to just naturally go back to Mayberry.
No. No.
Okay,
No. No.
we're beyond that as a society, but
This is not
we have to
Star
start
Wars.
we have to start looking at what we're doing and realizing that the common element in everything that attracts us is happiness or comedy.
Yeah.
Okay. And right now, what is pervading everything we do is anger and violence. And we just need to rethink
I
this.
think that's why, for me, like the Olympics has been a breath of fresh air. Dick Gate aside, um, because
But
it does show unification. It does show pride in multiple countries, but it also shows unification of multiple countries. So, like this is happening today, but and it's already happened, so it's all over. But the in the floor routine for the women's gymnastics, the Brazilian won gold, and Simone Biles and Childs, I can't remember her first name, got second and third. But on the podium, they bow down to the Brazilian that won gold, and then unify and hold hands and all that. And it's just like that's countries coming together that don't care where they're from. They just want to celebrate each other, and that's something we all need to get back to.
what's the stories that we hear? The dick pole vaulter and the
The river
the
Sin
people
poisoning people.
and the people that were saying that that boxer was transgender when she wasn't,
She
and
right.
that other
Boy,
people
a
were
sign. Yeah,
transgender
that
and
was
whatnot.
just and I think that's just a political spin story to
Yep.
try to, unfortunately, that fed a Republican narrative, and
Yep.
it was a total farce because
And
somebody didn't do their homework.
that's where like even the Boston Globe had to print a retraction
Yeah.
almost immediately, where they said we screwed up by doing this without checking our facts first. But we're not in a fact checking world anymore. We're in a whoever says it first claims it.
Yeah, it's
And
an attention game. That's all it is. No one There's very few people, I shouldn't say no one, but there's fewer and fewer people that care about what's real and what's fake. They just want the sensationalization to spawn off, dopamine or whatever hit it's doing for them. I don't actually know.
yeah, well, see, this is where going back to when Biden was contemplating whether he was going to leave or not. One of my favorite, I'll call him a newsman. He's not really a newsman, but I love Jon Stewart.
Hmm.
What he said was, it is healthy to have the conversation about whether Biden is fit to serve. He didn't say Biden should step down. He said it is healthy to have the conversation. He then said his own personal belief, he did not have the faith in Biden to be able to serve 4 more years. But he said it is okay to have the conversation. And he got slammed for trying to engage in the conversation. And I think that's the other part about this is let's start having conversations, not yelling matches.
Yeah.
Because that fracture that I saw in the Democratic Party over the week before Biden announced he was not running was not healthy. People
No.
got angry internally, and that's the Republicans have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like Kevin McCarthy is still going around talking about how Matt Gaetz had sex with the 16-year-old girl. He's telling everybody that will listen because they have vendettas on the GOP side as well. On the Democrat side, it seemed like we had everything cleaned up, and then that happened. And we can't afford, as a country, to let both political parties fracture that way because our political system, like it or not, is based off of 270 to win. And you can't get to 270 with 3 or 4 parties. You just can't.
No. It'll never. We would. You would have to actually change electoral college or throw it out laws if we had
Well,
a
here's
four-party system that actually had traction in all four parties.
but here's the problem with it. Right now, the way that it's written, if if nobody achieves 270 electoral votes, then I believe it's the Senate gets to
Yeah,
choose.
that's right.
Okay, which means the party in power remains in power as long as it's fractured. We are encouraging the political system to fracture if you're in power and to unify if you're not in power. And that's not healthy either.
I wonder if the forefathers ever thought through that scenario, but then what if the Senate hasn't, like, somehow there's four parties and it's evenly split?
You want to know what I'd be more worried about? I'd be more worried about the founding fathers never thinking that somebody was going to look up dolphin sex on the internet and become vice president of the United States.
That my other thing. The signing of the Constitution. Did you see the Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet where, like, of the 7 or 8 people she listed, like, 6 weren't ever signatories?
Yes. And JD Vance talked about um, Washington being such a great man and other people being great men, and none of them had children, yet his platform is you should be shamed and you should be taxed if you don't have children.
Oh yeah, because they want to give more votes to people with kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's all the GOP has a certain amount of control right now. Okay, they may still take back the Senate, they may keep the House. It's in their best interest to distract and to diffuse the vote, okay, over more parties because it gives them more power. The Democrats stand a chance of gaining back the White House, which means that they can consolidate power there. This is all about power consolidation. It's not about what's best for the average American
No, it's
anymore.
it's what's best for the party itself.
And we'll leave it at this point. This is the reason why we've been talking about this. The weirdness has to stop because it's allowing our freedoms to be encroached upon by entities that say they are doing the best things possible they can for us, who are absolutely not doing so. There is there is a power that be behind each party that has an agenda that we will never hear about because it is only known to the very top people. But they know things that, and I'm not trying to talk in conspiracy theories here. I'm saying both sides do this.
Yeah.
There is benefit to power that we don't see that will continue as long as we keep electing people that believe in that power structure.
I don't know about you, but I like clean air and clean water, and that might not happen in the future if we elect the wrong people.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the history of pre-EPA because it's pretty dark.
All right,
Um,
it's
anybody
it's a,
anybody that lived anywhere near the Ohio River knows what I'm talking about.
it's a dirty history.
Yep. So, anyways, So
This is
um,
a lighthearted episode.
yeah, we didn't go deep on any topics that required a lot
No,
of deep thinking or anything like that.
none.
But again, we do this show because we want to talk about what we want to talk about, and we love getting getting ideas and getting feedback from you guys. So we are going to put up a survey. It's going to be highly slanted against Ryan, just so you're aware.
Figured.
That's already planned. But we honestly we want more than just okay, well, great show, guys, or no, could you do this? Tell us your thoughts. Respond to some of the things that we're saying
Let's have a
because
conversation.
yes, exactly. Because part of what we're doing, part of what we've talked about all along is Ryan and I love having these conversations among ourselves, and we just want to spread them to other people.
And you know
This was
what?
all real. This was not scripted. This was a natural outcropping of what we see.
And if you have a great conversation piece, we'll bring you on the show. Happy to have that conversation. Happy to have that open discourse. And if we don't like you mid-show, we'll boot you.
I can boot you mid show. Okay, bye.
Yeah, you do have that power.
See what happens when you leave me in charge?
Well, we did switch platforms, which I do like this much better. So,
Yes. So, anyways, get us out of this hellhole we're in, Ryan.
I think this is a good one. But so thank you everyone for having patience with Dan's selection of guests. We'll call them in my absence, but it does feel good to come back. Either way, please, to Dan's earlier point, reach out to us. Send us an email, repressedhumorissues@gmail.com or repressedhumorissues. I fucked all that up, didn't I?
Yeah, it's repressedhumorissues.com or repressedhumorissues@gmail.com. You
I
can
was
do
flipping
either.
it. I was flipping it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm rusty, but either way, great to be back. And as always, I'm Ryan.
I'm Dan.
We'll talk to you next time. That was your goal. You do
Yes,
win.
that was my goal. I set that up for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I waited until we finished the show, started talking about whatever I was going to tape afterwards. And did you notice I went immediately to donuts?
Yeah. Devious donut demon over there.
Yeah. So,
Just call you
I mean,
Triple
it was
D.
either that or trying to make a RFK donut. That's a donut. Bear fucking joke. I don't know.
That's too difficult at this point. I mean, that's you don't need to do anything to that story. It's so crazy.
I was saying on Twitter earlier, somewhere there's a video of him kicking kittens. There just has to be. I mean,
Yeah,
what hasn't he done?
yeah, or uppercutting like a baby giraffe or something.
Uppercutting, just uppercutting. It couldn't just be punching in the neck.
No, uppercutting.
It,
It's like a full on like. Wait, is that
you could have
Ryu
said,
from Street Fighter doing the
yeah, but
Hayuken?
you could have said punching a giraffe in the Adam's apple. That would have
No,
been interesting.
no,
But you have
because
to
now
go
you're.
uppercutting the baby giraffe.
I'm gonna see if I can create that as a visual. I know
For
what the
this
rest of.
episode?
I'm gonna see what the rest of my night entails. It's gonna be RFK Jr. uppercutting a fucking giraffe, baby giraffe.
Baby giraffe uppercuts. That's the name of this episode.
Baby giraffe. Oh, thank God.